Hey everybody, this is Brett with Aqua. I'm just here today to do a video on the Hunter Wi-Fi controllers. And actually Hunter just came out with this faceplate this year. This faceplate fits onto Hunter Pro C 400 and 400i, which basically converts your non-Wi-Fi controller into a Wi-Fi controller. And we have been installing those Pro C controllers kind of as our base model for about 5 years. So if you don't have a Wi-Fi controller and you want to upgrade, it's a pretty simple process now. We just pull the old faceplate off, put this new one on, and then we set you up we configure the app for you and all that and kind of walk you through it. But that's kind of what I'm going to touch on today, is just the app itself and what makes this Hunter kind of stand out in the market, compared to the other Wi-Fi controllers. Because there are a couple other ones, but the functionality on the Hunter really exceeds everything else that's out there. So we'll start. We're looking at the dashboard right now. This is kind of your view of the app itself. You can see my zones. I have all my zones named, little icons on them, kind of based on what they're watering. So, 1 and 2 are hitting grass. 3 is actually hitting some grass and some garden area. And then 7 is my drip irrigation, so that's all gardens. You can also see your temperature. It gets weather information from basically an airport of your choosing. And then you have your rainfall information, which shows, yesterday's rainfall and last week's rainfall. If you had a rain sensor or a flow sensor or any other type of sensor, you could see it here. Actually, don't have any installed on my current controller. And then you can see your water savings here. Your water savings, the number that's displayed, is based on when the system does not water due to weather events. So for example, if there's been a lot of rain and the system didn't water, it would count that as water savings. If it watered less because it was a lower temperature, it would count that as water savings. So that's one of the coolest features, is it does make adjustments based on weather and temperature, so that you don't have to. So it actually, you're not babysitting your sprinkler system, and it's doing a better job of watering, usually, than if you were babysitting it. So with that, we'll jump into zones and schedules. Right here you can see all my zones that are set up. I have 7 zones, so we'll just dive into one of these. You can select your icon right here. I am using a time-based schedule. There's also a smart ET schedule, where ET is evapotranspiration. So basically what that does is it will fully saturate your soil. It's got a database of information with our general weather and our soil types up here. So it will fully saturate your soil, and then it won't water until that saturation is gone, and then it's going to fully saturate it again. So it definitely does the job, but you end up with some infrequent watering. So for simplicity's sake, we just go with the time-based schedule. My time-based schedule options are right here. I have mine set for 15 minutes. As far as schedule adjustments, you can set it to water more often when hot, water longer when hot, don't water extra when hot, and then you can ignore all temperature triggers. So I have mine set to water longer. There's also soak, which is a kind of cool feature. I think it's kind of designed for people with a lot of gradient to their yard. So say you wanted to water a zone for 30 minutes. But if you water it, 30 minutes at a time, you're going to end up with a lot of runoff. What you can do is set a cycle time and a soak time. So it's going to add, at least 20 minutes in between watering that zone, so that, the yard can actually soak up the water before it comes back around and finishes watering it, which is a pretty nice feature, and it's pretty easy to use. And then under advanced, we have, basically this is a watering adjustment. I don't actually use it. If I'm going to adjust the watering length, I just do it right there. So I have all my my zones set up, and then we have our start times. And I actually have quite a few start times, just because I'm watering my drip irrigation for like 1 minute 6 times a day, every 2 hours or something. But We'll dive into this one. You have your start time right here. I have mine set for every week, which is pretty standard. You know, you could water every other week if you wanted to. And then I have it to select the days that I'm going to water, whereas you could also do even or odd days. For each of these, you select the zones that you're going to water. So I have all my main turf zones selected. The only one that's not selected is my drip irrigation. So that's it. You know, you got your start times, got your run times. We're going to jump over the top here and look at reports. Now my controller is actually unplugged right now, and it's buried by some yard furniture, so I can't get to it to plug it in, but if it was plugged in, you could see your actual watering history. And basically all it would say is that it hasn't watered because the system's been off. But so that's my watering history actual. So if you're ever curious if your system has run, you know, if your yard's, you know, looking dry or too wet, you can come here and you can see, you know, oh, you know, for some reason it's running 2 times in a day, or oh, it hasn't run in 3 days. I want to see why. And it would show you as you mouse over it why it didn't water. And if it did water more than once, you probably have too many start times or something along those lines. But we can look at the watering schedule. So this is what's coming up in the future. And basically, it lists each zone individually for the days that it's going to water. You can see that every single one has a line through it, which indicates that it's not going to water because my watering cycle is suspended because it's January. So that's one of the nicest features about this is you can look back and see what your system has done, and you can, you know, once you adjust all your programming, you can come here and look and make sure that everything looks like it's supposed to look. You know, you could see if it's going to water, you know, twice a day when you don't want it to. And you also have a lot of other information that we're not going to get into in this video, but just some real nice diagnostic stuff, informational. And then, so we'll jump over to sensors. And basically you could have your rain sensor here, or you could have your flow sensor. We will talk about flow sensors in another video. That's something we're definitely going to get into. We are actually just kind of waiting on them to come out with a wireless device that would monitor your water flow, so you could it's actually pretty cool. It gives you alerts if there's anything out of the ordinary happening. Like say a zone normally uses 8 gallons a minute and all of a sudden it starts using 15, you'll get an alert. Or if there's water constantly running, you'll get an alert for it. And so that leaves us with watering triggers. Now watering triggers is what saves you water and what really makes this controller stand out above the rest. And you know, if you don't want to use any of these watering triggers, you just want it to run the times that you set it to, you can set all the zones to ignore these watering triggers. But, you know, just for example, I have mine set to not water when it's below 60. It's not going to water when the chance of rain is above 60%. If it's rained 0.2 inches in the last day, it's not going to water. And if it's rained 1.3 inches in the last 7 days, it's not going to water. It's also set to water 30% less when it's below 70 degrees and 30% more when it's above 87. So, you know, on a cool day, I'm saving water. I might actually bump this up to 50%. And then, you know, I felt like my 30% on the high end was okay this year, because in the heat of August, my grass was looking pretty nice. And then smart ET watering adjustments, don't need to worry about them unless you're using ET watering on all your zones. But, you know, like I said, for simplicity's sake, stick with time-based, especially in the beginning, and then you can consider switching over. But I've tried both, and I still prefer time-based. And that's about it. Like I said, this is part 1. We're going to do a couple more of these and really kind of dial in and try to give you guys some resources for when you do get these installed. If you do have any questions, you can always come back here and watch a video or something. And that's it. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.